Hi, Sandra here, the Misophonia therapist. And I wanted to just talk a little today about how shocked I felt when I was just taking a look at some of the posts in one of the Misophonia support groups that I belong to. And I saw somebody had posted something up about an experience they had had with a therapist. And this is what they said. I finally got tired of my therapist telling me that my husband can eat anywhere he wants. It's his house too. After I stated to him that it sounds like glass when he chews, and I feel increasingly dark thoughts toward him. I got made to feel that it was just me not being normal. Now, of course, I've paraphrased and I've changed things around a little bit, but this type of comment, I see this a lot, let's put it that way, from people who are in these support groups that do finally go and see therapists that simply do not understand misophonia. And this kind of comment made by a therapist is surprisingly common. Now, as a therapist myself, this really did make me take quite a sharp intake of breath, because it's not the role of the therapist to judge or to pass comment on our clients' lives. A big no-no. And it's also not a very helpful thing to say to somebody with misophonia anyway. In my experience, most people I see with misophonia already know that logically it rarely makes any sense. And we know that the people we live with have a right to eat, to live, to breathe, or whatever. The part of the brain that drives misophonia is not logical. It cannot reason, and it doesn't care whether something is right or wrong, which is why so many people feel a strong sense of guilt about having misophonia in the first place, and then by having to avoid or ask people to refrain from making the noise. Now, if you yourself have misophonia, you might have noticed that these intense, angry feelings, they just seem to come from nowhere. And it may seem like you really have absolutely no control over them. Misophonia has the power to wreck close personal relationships. Your anger, your rage, or your seemingly irrational behavior isn't something that you are actively choosing. So no amount of guilt tripping from other people, especially not a therapist, or beating yourself up is going to be helpful. And let me repeat, misophonia is not logical, it's not reasonable or rational, it's not fair or sensible or forgiving. It stems from a part of the brain that simply wants you to be alive. It's a survival mechanism in overdrive, and that part of the brain has no ability to take a step back and say to itself, so maybe my husband does have a right to snore, eat, breathe, tap his pen, or whatever. It's not how it works. Obviously, there is a part of the brain that will think that, but the two are often in conflict, and that is what creates a lot of the anger, frustration, and guilt. So, obviously, having said all of that, it is important to find a therapist that does understand the condition and how it affects you specifically. Although it's important to say that no amount of therapy will completely eradicate misophonia. It's not a magic wand. What therapy can do, especially therapy by somebody who does understand the condition, is help you to cope better, to coexist with it to the point where you don't have to keep on running away, and to hopefully be able to maybe get to the root of what is driving it. And in that sense, to desensitize the part of the brain that is responsible for your survival. It's complex. And if you're thinking of getting therapy, please try to choose somebody who has experience with misophonia or who understands it. And obviously, I am somebody who tries to understand it, and I have had experience. This video isn't meant to be a salesy type video. It really is just to urge anyone who is considering therapy to use caution. So I hope that's been helpful. And if you are watching me on YouTube, please click subscribe, and on other platforms, consider following me. And of course, if you have any questions, or if you'd like me to help you personally, if you'd like to jump on a call with me, please consider sending me a direct message. Thank you. Bye-bye.